Hello, welcome to La Excellence. In our ReCAP program, that is Current Affairs Revision program, we are going to understand 1 year's current affairs. Let us approach the topics month-wise. First of all, let us start with this month, September 2020. PDF of this particular video is available in the description. If you want to join the test series related to this particular current affairs series, you can join so by clicking the below link mentioned in the description. Let us understand September 2020 in two parts. This video is of part 1. Here we have to remember this is a revision session. So we are going to discuss the issues briefly. In this revision series, we are going to discuss the issues only from prelims perspective. That's why we are going to go in brief. Let us start. First, let's start with polity. First issue is contempt of court. This was news because of Prashant Bhushan's. Here, contempt of court means Supreme Court and High Court, when they give a judgment, if someone disrespects it by not following or by negating it, then that is known as contempt of court. The person becomes guilty of contempt of court. Only Supreme Court and High Courts, they have contempt of court. They derive this power through the Constitution, and contempt of court procedure is mentioned under Contempt of Court Act 1971. It derives contempt into two types. One is civil contempt, two is criminal contempt. Civil contempt means willful disobedience of an order given by the court. Criminal contempt means any of the publications or acts in which it scandalizes the court, prejudices the judicial proceedings, and interferes with the administration of court in any manner. Last year, when this case was in news, contempt of court was criticized, and it was said that as it is not mentioned under Article 19(2), that is, exceptions to freedoms, application of this contempt of court as frequently as it is done now is against the fundamental rights. And that's the issue that was in news. Next issue is question hour. Only a part of question hour was utilized last year's especially monsoon session. That's why this was in news. Question hour is the first hour of Lok Sabha session during which members ask the questions to the government. 0 hour is the one that follows the question hour immediately. 0 hour is Indian innovation. Anyway, 0 hour was introduced in 1962. It is considered Indian innovation, but question hour is the general practice of the parliamentary systems, especially UK. As we derived the parliamentary systems and parliamentary proceedings from UK's parliament, we follow the same convention. In the question hour, questions are of various types, but majorly divided into starred and non-starred questions. Starred questions needs to be answered in the floor of the house itself. Non-starred questions can be answered in the written form after this session. With regard to 0 hour's duration is 30 minutes. Normal proceedings of the house are not applicable to 0 hour, so freedoms are ensured in asking questions during the 0 hour. Next issue is election of deputy speaker. Under Article 93 of the Indian Constitution, procedure for election of both speaker and deputy speaker are mentioned. In this case, recently, deputy speaker's position is vacant from last few years. In this context, opposition parties asked for appointing the deputy speaker, but government has not taken any action. Recently also, this is in news. With regard to powers of deputy speaker need not resign from the original party. He or she can remain in the party and be impartial. Deputy Speaker is elected in the first meeting of the Lok Sabha after the general elections from amongst the members of Lok Sabha only. Speaker and Deputy Speaker are the positions of Lok Sabha. By convention, Deputy Speaker position is offered to the opposition party. There is no mandatory provision in the Constitution. Deputy Speaker holds the office till the tenure of the Lok Sabha, or he or she may resign, or he or she can be removed through the special resolution, with the effective majority of the House. Deputy Speaker is not subordinate to the Speaker of Lok Sabha. He is responsible to Lok Sabha and is the second highest ranking legislative officer to the Lok Sabha. and he or she can act as a presiding officer in case of absence or death or illness of the Speaker of Lok Sabha. Next issue is Keshavananda Bharati case. Article 31C of the Constitution, which was inserted through 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, that was challenged in this particular case. Article 25th Amendment Act, which removed the right to property from the fundamental right. This was also challenged in this particular case. Keshavananda Bharati case. In this case, Supreme Court has mentioned that Article 25th Constitutional Amendment Act is unconstitutional, and 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, which provides Parliament to enact law to implement various reforms, that was partially upheld. And then it has mentioned that judicial review is sacrosanct. It can review any part of the Constitution, and Parliament's power to amend the Constitution is limited. It has to consider the basic structure of the Constitution. It can amend any part of the Constitution, but it has to consider the basic structure of the Constitution. This doctrine of basic structure of Constitution is consolidated in Keshavananda Bharati's case. In this context, you have to recollect your Fundamental Rights chapter, and the case is related to Fundamental Rights versus DPSP. Next issue is tenure of parliamentary standing committees. Rajya Sabha chairman has discussed that as of now the parliamentary standing committee's tenure is 1 year. This 1 year is not sufficient for him or her to understand the committee's proceedings and committee's actions. So that's why he has proposed for 2 years tenure. This is not implemented as of now, but this is the proposal. In this context, let us understand the parliamentary committees. There are 4 important types of parliamentary committees. 1 is estimated committee, 2 is public accounts committee, 3 is committee on public sector undertakings, 4th is departmental parliamentary standing committees. This is in news. Departmental parliamentary standing committees. The estimates committee was appointed in 1950, first time proposed and appointed in 1950 under recommendations of John Mathai. Public Accounts Committee is the oldest one, and it was set up in 1921 under Government of India Act 1919. Public Sector Committee on Public Sector, this was appointed under Krishna Menon Committee 1964. Departmental Standing Committees, these were first appointed based on the rules of committees of Lok Sabha 1993. With regard to composition of these parliamentary committees, 30 members, all members are from Lok Sabha. With regard to Public Accounts Committee, 22 members, 15 from Lok Sabha, 7 from Rajya Sabha. With regard to Public Sector Undertakings Committee, 15 from Lok Sabha and 7 from Rajya Sabha. With regard to Departmental Standing Committees, 31 members, total 31 members is the composition, 21 from Lok Sabha, 10 from Rajya Sabha. All these members are elected with a tenure of 1 year. Estimates Committee, it examines the budgetary suggestions of public expenditure. Public Accounts Committee examines the CAG report and discovers the irregularities. Estimates Committee examines before introduction of budget. Public Accounts Committee examines after the spending. Public Sector Undertakings Committee, it examines the reports of accounts of public sector undertakings submitted by the CAG, but it doesn't involve in the day-to-day functioning of the PSUs. Departmental Standing Committees, they have wider jurisdiction. They examine the bills, they examine the demand for grants and other matters and recommend it to them. They try to ensure the financial accountability of the executive of that particular ministry. Supportive officer position is not there for any of these committees except for Public Accounts Committee. CAGS Public Accounts Committee. Policy involvement is done only by the Estimates Committee. It can suggest the alternative policies. No other committee, these committees, they don't have that power. Next, let us understand the geography related issues. First one is Reunion Island. Reunion Island is a hot spot, that is volcanically active area located in the Indian Ocean. This Reunion Island belongs to France. This is near to Madagascar. There are 2 islands. One is Mauritius. Second one is Reunion Island. Reunion Island is Indian Ocean territory of France. This is a hotspot region, volcanic hotspot region, the Indian Ocean region. This is located on the Chagos Lakkadiv Ridge and the southern part of the Mascarene Plateau, important Mascarene Plateau, which are volcanically highly active. This area is known as Volcanic Plateau region. Reunion Island is part of Indian Ocean region belonging to France. That's why in many of the Indian Ocean region committees, France is a member. Next issue is Changla Pass. Changla Pass is the third highest motorable road in the world. Changla lies on the National Highway 21. It is also known as Leh Manali Highway. This one is news because of the LAC conflict between India and China. India's seed vault is located in the Changla. Changla is located in Ladakh region. And over 5,000 seed accessions are there. It is maintained by National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources and Defense Institute of High Altitude Research under DRDO. Very, very important. Changla Pass, Changla region in Ladakh. Next one is Californian forest fires and the relation of it with regard to ocean currents. This is the Californian region in USA and Mexico. Mexico and California is known as Baja California. California current is known as cold current. As it is cold current, the coast of California is dry. That is why this location is hotter, especially during the summer. Forest fires are very, very frequent in Californian region. One of the reasons is because of the cold current that passes nearby. And Californian region, it experiences Mediterranean climate. That means during the winters it experiences rainfall. During summer it experiences very, very high temperatures. That's why Californian forest fires are very frequent. You have to go through the ocean currents. This is important. We are expecting a question from this. Next issue is Nathula Pass. Nathula Pass is a mountain pass in the Himalayan in the eastern Sikkim district. It connects Indian state of Sikkim with China's Tibetan Autonomous Region. Nathula means listening ears. La means pass. Nathula is one of the 3 open trading border posts between India and China. It was sealed after India-China war and opened again in 2006. And last year, Nathula Pass was closed because of the conflicts near LAC. With regard to Nathula, we have to consider Jelipla also. Jelipla Pass is again located in the eastern Sikkim district. This is in between autonomous region of China and Sikkim. This connects Lhasa, that is capital of Tibet, to India. Menmocho Lake is below Jelipla Pass. On the Indian side, there are 2 routes to Jelipla. One through Sikkim's capital Gangtok, other through Kalimpong. Jelipla is in use from the early times to trade between India and Tibet. There is one more pass that is known as Nakula Pass. This was in use last year. Again, it is also located in Sikkim region. Nakula Pass is in Sikkim region. There was a conflict last year near this particular region. Important mountain passes are recorded as a separate video. All important mountain passes in India. In our channel, you can go through it. Next issue is Gilgit-Baltistan province. Gilgit-Baltistan's legislature has approved the Pakistan's proposal to declare it as a temporary province of Pakistan. Otherwise, earlier, Gilgit-Baltistan region was just seen as a northern areas. That's it. It was not considered as a province. But Pakistan's legislature has proposed for this particular move. India has criticized it because this is part of India according to us. Now Jammu and Kashmir state is bifurcated into 2. One is Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory. Second one is Ladakh. You have to be careful in this context. Yes, Gilgit-Baltistan region. This one, and there's one more thing why this was news, because China's One Belt One Road project, under that CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, that moves through Xinjiang province, through Gilgit-Baltistan to the Gwadar province, Gwadar port. So that's why Gilgit-Baltistan is important for China as well as Pakistan. And India says this project is violation of India's sovereignty. Next issue is Tasmania. Tasmania is an island south of Australia. This was news because hundreds of whales died near the Tasmanian coast. With regard to Tasmania, the important thing is it is famous for various types of grasslands, and the water strait between Australia and Tasmania is known as Bass Strait. Important. Bass Strait is the major strait. Bass Strait is located between Tasmania and mainland Australia. Next issue is Taiwan Strait. USA's warships they entered near the Taiwan Strait. They conducted a joint drill with Taiwan. Taiwan Strait is located between China and Taiwan. Taiwan says China is ours. China says Taiwan is ours. That means they have conflicting territorial claims. And Taiwan has deeper links with USA. USA, to counter China, is also maintaining deeper links with Taiwan. In this context, this strait is currently part of South China Sea, and it connects East China Sea to the north. This is South China Sea and this is East China Sea. Taiwan Strait connects East China Sea and South China Sea. South China Sea is one of the important controversial areas. The entire strait is on Asia's continental shelf. Historically, these two, China and Taiwan, they have conflicting claims on this region. China says under One China policy, it is part of China. Next issue is Okavango Swamp. Okavango Swamp is located in Botswana. It borders Angola too. Near Okavango Swamp, hundreds of elephants died last year. They consumed water polluted by cyanobacteria. That's why they died. This Okavango swamp is drained by Okavango River, which is also known as Kovango River. This delta covers part of Kalahari Desert, important Kalahari Desert, which is located in Namibia. This is home to most endangered species, large mammals known as cheetah, white rhinoceros, black rhinoceros, African wild dogs, and lions. This delta comprises permanent marshy lands which are seasonally flooded by this particular Okavango River. And it has interior delta systems. Interior delta because this river is not flowing towards the ocean. It is flowing towards this particular delta, which is majorly located in Botswana. It is part of Namibia Desert. Next issue is Mekadadu Balancing Reservoir. Mekadadu project will be a gravity dam proposed by Karnataka. Karnataka says under Kaveri water project, under Kaveri water sharing, which is finalized by Supreme Court, it has greater share. To use its share, Karnataka is planning to build a project near Mekadadu region. This project helps in storing the water, which helps the water needs of Bangalore city. But Tamil Nadu says this constrains it. This is the upper riparian region. This is the lower riparian region. It will obstruct the water flow to Tamil Nadu, especially to the dry regions. That's why it is criticizing this particular project. This project is the contentious issue between Karnataka in the Kaveri River basin. This Mekadadu is located in the confluence of Kaveri River and then tributary of Kaveri. So this also submerges part of Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary. That is why it is a controversial project now. This particular project this case is pending before Supreme Court. Next issue is Eastern Mediterranean Islands. Very, very important. First one is Crete Island. Second one is Lesbos Island. Recently, that is in 2021, few of the islands in this particular Mediterranean and Aegean Sea are also in news. As this particular video is regarding September 2020, we are covering only those islands that were there in news in 2020. Now, Crete Island is part of Mediterranean Sea. It is between Aegean Sea and Mediterranean Sea. This island is in news because of the conflicting claims from Turkey and Greece. Greece and Turkey, they are claiming the region, this particular Eastern Mediterranean region. Cyprus is one of the island countries. This is also claiming this particular region. Greece says, as Castellarzo Island, this particular region belongs to Greece. From here, 200 nautical miles covers this region. Turkey says, from here, 200 nautical miles covers this region. 200 nautical miles is represented as exclusive economic zone, and Cyprus also says our 200 nautical miles region covers this. That's why there is conflicting claims. Crete is at the center of this particular claims. Now, Lesbos Island. Lesbos Island is near to Turkey. This is part of Aegean Sea. Lesbos Island, this belongs to Greece, but Turkey has a conflicting claim. This is in news because many of the refugees from Turkey, especially Syrian refugees from Turkey, are moving to Lesbos Islands. This is known as Miltony Island also. This is the largest island after Crete and Euboea Island. Euboea Island is in news because of the Greek forest fires. Last month's forest fires. This has impacted this particular island. That's why this one is news. Crete is the important island in this particular region. Euboea is located in Aegean Sea. Crete is located in between Aegean Sea and Mediterranean Sea. This Lesbos is known as Mytilene. This island is largely volcanic in the west, and many thermal springs are located. It can cause in this region severe earthquakes are possible. Many of the refugee camps are located in this particular Lesbos Island. Next issue is dolls and hydro projects. Recently, our Prime Minister has inaugurated start of this particular project. This is proposed as a horseshoe curve. This is proposed on the horseshoe curve, this one, of the BS River. The aim of this particular is to generate the hydroelectricity and to provide the irrigation in the nearby regions. BS River flows from Himachal Pradesh to Punjab. This particular river is important. This particular project is built in the Himachal Pradesh. Next issue is Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Recently, ICRISAT has become part of 100-year storage project of Svalbard Global Seed Vault. This belongs to this particular Global Seed Vault is located in the Svalbard Island, which is part of Norway. This is between Norwegian Sea, Barents Sea and Greenland Sea. On the north, it has Arctic Sea. This particular seed vault is a long tunnel built under a mountain. This seed vault is located in Svalbard, Norway. This is the specific location. Longyearbyen is the specific location. It belongs to Norway. Why this particular one is important? In case of any catastrophe like nuclear war, asteroid strike, climate change, in case of loss of biodiversity, this seed vault will act as a doomsday seed vault. This was started in 2008. India is part of it. If anyone wants to use the seeds stored in this International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, under this they have to approve use of this. And why this particular region only? Why in Norway only? Why can't we store the seeds in other region? Because it has permanently frozen ground, permanently frozen territory. They need not maintain any artificial cooling systems. This region is permanently frozen. That's why this is important. In India, Changla region, we have already discussed in this video, Changla region provides the base for India's seed vault. Changla is located in Ladakh. Next, let us understand history, art and culture related current issues. First one is Mappila Rebellion or Mappila Revolt. A report from Indian Council of Historical Research was submitted last year, September 2020. It has delisted 387 names, including victims of wagon tragedy, Malabar Mappila rebellions under leaders Ali Musliar and Variamkunath Ahmad Hazi. So from a dictionary of matters, they removed these names. And again, the government has appointed 3-member committee to review the recommendations of ICHAR. Now let us understand what is this Mappila rebellion. So Mappila is a place, Malabar region. Mappila is a place in the coastal region of Kerala. So Mappilas are the peasants in this Muslim peasants, and majority of the Hindus were the landlords in this region. During non-cooperation movement and Khilafat movement launched in 1920, this Mappila rebellion started. Initially, Congress leaders supported it, but as it turned into more and more violent event, Congress leaders have removed their support to this particular rebellion. They have fought against the new tenancy laws. And after the death of Tipu Sultan, till then these Mapilas were during the time of Tipu Sultan, these Mapilas were the rich community. After that, they became the peasants. They came under Madras presidency. And this particular Mapila rebellion turned into a communal violence. That is also one of the reasons why ICHAR has recommended to remove their names. Most of the landlords were Nambudi Brahmins and most of the tenants were Mapila Muslims. So they were revolted against the Mapila Nambudri Brahmins and the Britishers. Britishers have imposed capital punishments to many of the Mapila rebels. Next issue is Swantwadi toys. This was a news because Prime Minister has mentioned such toys in his Man Ki Baat speech while discussing the India's potential to be a toy hub of the world. This Swantwadi toys refer to handmade work toys of the Sindhudurg district of Maharashtra. Most of these toys are made in the village of Kolegaon of the Swantwadi Taluka. That's why the name Swantwadi. So, this is made of wood known as Indian coral tree wood. These craftsmen majorly belongs to Chittari community. This community came to Swantwadi from the Karwar and Goa places. Swantwadi toys belongs to Maharashtra. Handmade toys, they use natural colors. Next issue is Onam festival. Onam festival is celebrated in the month of September, August and September months in Kerala. Onam is the harvest festival of Kerala. It is celebrated to honor the homecoming of Asura king known as Mahabali. Asura king is the tribal king. This Onam is celebrated by making Pokalam. Pokalam means flower rangolis and other rituals performed during this time is known as Vallamkali. Boat race is known as Vallamkali. Pulikalai means tiger dances. Kummattikali means mask dances. Onattalu means martial arts among others. And Onam Sadhya, that is grand feast, is main attraction of this particular festival. Here we have to remember other harvest festival. Let's say Makar Sankranti, celebrated in which state, in which month. Baishakhi, which state, which month. Like that we have to go through this table. Next, let us understand the economy related current affairs. First issue is adjusted gross revenue of the telecom sector. AGR is the usage and license fee that the telecom operators have to pay to the DOT. Why this was news? Because Department of Telecom has allowed the telecom companies to pay the AGR dues in 10 years. Supreme Court has also approved it. So this license fees is divided into usage charges, licensing fees, and it is pegged at 3.5 to 8% respectively. So as many of the telecom companies have to pay this particular one and many of the telecom companies are under distress. That's why Supreme Court and Department of Telecom, they have given 1 year of tenure to the pay adjusted gross revenue. Next issue is RBI's OMO, Open Market Operation Facilities. OMOs are conducted by RBI on behalf of government. Under this, simultaneously sale and purchase or sale of government securities one time. After some time, purchase of government securities is done. It can be done simultaneously or it can be done independently. So, sale and purchase of government securities to and from the market is known as Open Market Operation Facility. Last year, RBI started OMO facility to manage the liquidity during the September month. It sells the bonds to absorb the liquidity, because when it sells the bonds we have to pay the money. That leads to lower money supply. That controls the inflation. Central bank sells the bonds, sells the government securities to control the inflation. Central bank buys the bonds from the individuals so that bank gives the money to the individuals. They spend it or they invest it. That will kickstart the economy. That means OMOs are used for growth as well as to control the inflation depending upon the condition. RBI uses it as a quantitative tool. That means to increase or reduce the total volume of money, RBI uses open market facility. Next issue is changes in the priority sector lending norms. Recently, RBI has changed PSL norms. First of all, what is PSL, priority sector? RBI mandates all the banks to lend certain portion of their funds, specifically 40% of their adjusted gross net banking lendings to the priority sectors such as agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprises, export credit, education, housing, social infrastructure, renewable energy, etc. And regional, all the banks, including all the commercial banks, scheduled commercial banks, including foreign banks, they have to lend 40%. Regional rural banks, cooperative banks, small finance banks, they have to allocate 75% of their overall adjusted net bank credit to priority sector lending. Now, the changed priority sector norms include bank finance to startups and loans to farmers for installation of solar power plants, solarization of grid connected agricultural pumps, setting up to set up a compressed biogas plants. These are covered now. These from now onwards will be covered under priority sector lending. That means now, along with these areas, these will also be covered under PSL. This PSL lending to these areas, they not only promote the decentralized renewable energy, they also promote the entrepreneurship in these areas. Next issue is GST compensation to the states. Last year, this has become a major controversial issue. What is GST compensation? Why this was in news? Central government, while implementing GST, it has said that in case of shortfall in the tax collections by state governments, it is going to pay that particular shortfall for the period of 5 years to the states. But last year, due to shortfall in the overall revenues that are collected by the central government was unable to pay the GST compensation to the states. But states said, as the health is under the state list, they are spending more money for COVID treatment and other issues, so they need money now. But central government was not paying. Many of the states they requested, some of the states they said we will go to Supreme Court also if you are not giving. That is why this was news. Now, what is GST compensation? GST Compensation Act 2017, they guaranteed to the states that any loss of income to the states will be compensated until 2022. This GST Compensation Act assumed that 14% every year increment should be there as compared to 2015 to 16 because GST is implemented from 2017. Any shortfall in this will be compensated for this month. This money will be paid once in every 2 months to the accounts of the states. However, because of the economic slowdown, the government was not paying. There's a 40% gap last year in the compensation paid and the cess collected. One more thing here we have to remember is GST compensation is paid only through the GST cess that is collected by the government. As the GST itself is less, GST cess that is levied on the sin and luxury goods. GST cess is levied on these goods. As the income from this is less, central government was unable to pay. So we have to remember this. GST compensation to the states is not paid from the normal budgetary allocations. They are paid from the GST cess only. Next issue is Kisan Rails. Kisan Rails were first ever multi-commodity rails. Last year, from Devli, Maharashtra to Danpur, Bihar, first Kisan Rail was inaugurated. Recently, in this month, 200 Kisan Rails were there. So this Kisan Rail idea is proposed in the budget 2021. In this context, Indian Railways is implementing first ever multi-commodity trains, Kisan trains. Earlier, we had special trains for single commodity, but Kisan Rails are multi-commodity trains. These trains, they are refrigerated coaches. They bring the perishable agricultural products to the markets over a short period of time. This will ensure more revenues. This helps in the doubling the farmers' income, and that also helps the consumers to access the fresh commodities. And it is expected to reduce the cost of transportation. And there is no upper limit. There is no minimum limit or upper limit for the commodity transportation. Freight, they'll see, because earlier for single commodity, minimum these many tons you have to transport, like that there was a limit. Now there is no minimum limit. This is the significant issue of this. This is the significant point of this. Next issue is Singapore Convention on Mediation. This is officially known as United Nations Convention on International Settlement of Agreements resulting from mediation. This is known as Alternative Dispute Resolution Mechanism. Instead of going to or approaching to the normal courts, Alternative Dispute Resolution Mechanism would be set up, mediation would be done. United Nations General Assembly has adopted this convention in the year 2018, and it is opened for signature in 2019 in Singapore. That's why this is known as Singapore Convention on Mediation. We signed it, but we have not ratified it. India is signed it and India is not ratified it. But this is important because Singapore, by September 2020, we have not ratified, please remember. So Singapore Convention on Mediation, it helps in addressing various commercial disputes through mediation. Next issue is Agricultural Reforms Acts. 3 acts were passed by the parliaments for agricultural reforms. First one is Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Act, Farmers Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act, Essential Commodities Act 2020. These acts are very, very important. We can expect a question from this because of the ongoing strikes and protests from the farmers. First of all, we have to remember this: agriculture is in the state list, but interstate trade is in the interstate trade is in the centers list. Interstate means trade between two states. Interstate trade is in the centers list. Agriculture is in the state list. So why the central government is making laws? Because one, to bring in the uniformity, especially for this trade, etc. As it comes under interstate trade, center, that is parliament, has the power to make the laws. Now let us understand 3 laws briefly. First one is Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Act. This act allowed for the trade of the farmers' produce outside the APMC markets also. Trade of farmers' produce can be outside the APMCs, at the factory premises, cold storages, etc. Alternative trading channels are provided. Electronic trading channels. Under this particular one is provided. Already we have ENAM. So this will be strengthened now under Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce. Market fees abolished. With regard to APMC, state governments are criticizing it. If market fees is abolished, how are we going to maintain the APMCs? So this will enhance the capacities of the private sector, reduce the government procurement through APMCs. That is the criticism over here. Next law is Farmers Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act. This is to promote the corporate farming and this provides a national framework. Farming agreement is there between the farmer and the buyer. Prior production agreements are made. Minimum period of farmer farming agreement is made. Minimum period is 1 year. Maximum period is 5 years. After 5 years, they have to renew the agreement again. Maximum period is 5 years. Pricing of farm produce is based on the quality. Settlement of dispute. For the settlement of dispute, conciliation board, subdivisional magistrate, appellate authority are maintained. Now we cannot approach normal courts in case of any conflict in enforcing this particular contract. So this contract farming method is good. But the poor farmers, some of the poor farmers might not have the wherewithal to go to these bodies. They can go to courts, but they might not reach these. That's one more criticism with regard to this. Next comes Essential Commodities Act 2020. Essential Commodities Act is enacted in 1955. Now it is amended. Now, Essential Commodities Act includes foodstuff, drugs, fuel, etc. That means government can impose stock limits. This is the maximum amount you can store. So, to remove the hoarding or black marketing, stock limits can be imposed by the state governments. It is a central law, but state governments impose the stock limits according to the center's guidelines. Now, powers are with the central government to regulate the production, supply, distribution of the essential commodities. It can also fix the MRPs, and delisting of various commodities from essential commodities is mentioned. As per the Economic Survey, Essential Commodities Act itself is the cause of price hikes. That's why it has recommended for non-intervention of government even in the essential commodities. But only in the exceptional services government will intervene in the essential commodities. That is the gist of this particular law. Then powers of state government are reduced because it is the notification is by the center now. The amendment says only in case of war, famine, extraordinary prices or natural commodities, government will be involved. Stock prices, only in case of 100% increase in the retail price, then only stock limits will be imposed. Please remember, stock limits are not applied to the public distribution system. FCI maintains various huge stocks, but stock limits, whenever it is imposed under this Essential Commodities Act, these limits are not applicable to the public distribution. Next issue is labor law reforms. Second National Commission on Labor Laws, which is known as Ravinder Verma Committee, has recommended for labor law reforms because the existing laws are complex and rigid, lack of compliance, exclusion of unorganized sector, and there are new economic activities that are added. In this context, labor law reforms were proposed, and then 4 labor laws are there. At the central level, 44 labor laws are consolidated into four laws. Labor laws are labor is a concurrent list, so both center and states can bring in the laws. So central level laws are modified into 4 consolidated laws. Let us understand the 4 laws. First one is Code on Wages. This was passed in the year 2019. This particular Code on Wages provides for universalization of minimum wages, and it proposes for right to timely payment of salary. It fixes the statutory national floor wage, and it formalizes the appointment. Even in the informal sector, appointment letters are mandatory, and it opened all occupations for women, and it has allowed for night shifts also. So these are some of the important provisions of Code on Wages. Code on Social Safety was passed in the year 2020. Earlier, gratuity after 5 years of service was provided. Now, within 1 year, gratuity is provided. Earlier, no provision for minimum wages. Now, minimum wages are defined by the central government. These are fixed by the state governments. Gig workers and platform workers were not covered earlier under Social Security scheme. Now, these will be covered. Portability, that is, a unique ID is provided to the workers. So their portability of PF, etc., this will be there. Migrant worker database, which is known as Unorganized Sector National Unorganized Workers Database, this will be provided. Recently, government started this National Unorganized Sector Database also under Code on Social Safety. Code on Occupational Safety, annual health checkups to all workers is made mandatory. Hazardous industries, and also with the industries less than 10 employees. Earlier, occupational safety provisions were applicable to only employees with companies with more than 10 employees. Now it is applicable to everyone. National Occupational Safety and Health Boards are there. They monitor the implementation of this on a frequency basis. Next one, this is also 2020. Next one is Code on Industrial Relations. This one proposes for quick settlement with 2-member board on industrial dispute. It provides for reskilling fund for the retrenched employees. It defines the fixed term employment. This is controversial. Fixed term employment means instead of contract employment, the employees now can be recruited through fixed term employment, 5 years, 3 years. So security of tenure would be there. But others say that this can lead to fixed term employment can lead to reduction in the permanent employment. Let us see the concerns of these labor laws. Code on Wages. Size-based applicability. This Code on Wages law is applicable to companies, industries with more than 10 members. And 80% of India's unorganized sector employs less than 10. So, Code on Wages is said to be universal, but almost 80% of unorganized sector has less than 10 people. And minimum wage rules are arbitrary. Recent notification says the minimum wage is less than poverty line definition. So how can a minimum wage be less than poverty line definition? That's a concern. And Code on Social Safety, again it is applicable to organizations with less than 10 members. Not applicable to less than 10 members. Code on Occupational Safety, it has enhanced the minimum number of hours to 12 hours. Earlier it's only 9 hours, 12 hours. This is again a concern. Code on Industrial Relation, only organizations with 300 or more, they require permission from the government to remove the or to retrench the workers. Earlier its limit is 100, now it's 300. Multiple district board with single tribunal, this can lead to confusion. Strike limit is at 60 days. That means if an employee of or a group of employees of an organization wants to go for strike, they have to inform the management 60 days on a prior notice. A right to strike provision is not provided to the unorganized sector, it's only to the organized sector. These are some of the concerns of labor laws. Next issue is Banking Regulation Amendment Act and then cooperative banks, applicable to cooperative banks. Recently, some of the provisions of RBI, which were earlier not applicable to cooperative banks, are now being applicable. All the banks, how they comply with the RBI's regulations, that is how cooperative banks are also going to comply. RBI will undertake the scheme of amalgamations of bank without placing it under moratorium. Central bank develops the scheme to ensure interests of the public banking system account holders. That means many of the issues related to cooperative banks will now come under RBI. Earlier they were coming under cooperatives, state cooperative structures. Now they will come under RBI, especially multi-state cooperative banks and urban cooperative banks. Urban cooperative banks, multi-state cooperative banks, for them these rules are applicable, but these are not applicable to existing powers of state registrars of cooperative banks under state laws, and they are not going to apply to primary agricultural credit societies at the local level. These are applicable to urban cooperative banks and multi-state cooperative banks. Now these cooperative banks, let's say Punjab, Maharashtra cooperative banks, as these were facing stress, and because of these issues, cooperative banks are now under RBI. Next issue is cesspool and fiscal federalism. Recently, CAG has submitted a report of cess collections in 2018 to 19. Cess collections are added to Consolidated Fund of India. First of all, cess is an additional tax paid by the taxpayer over the tax paid. Let's say on 10 lakh, if I pay 1 lakh rupees as the tax, I have to pay cess on this tax amount, that is on 1 lakh. So that is known as cess. This is used for a specific purpose. There's one more tax which is known as surcharge, that is used for any purpose, but cess is used for a specific purpose. This is temporary. These are not shared by the central government with the states. As many as 35 cesses are there. 2.7 lakh crore cess is accrued to this year 2018 to 19, out of which only 6.1 lakh crore is used for that specific purpose. Let's say GST cess, education cess. That means remaining amount is used for other purposes. This is against the fiscal federalism. This is against the rules of cess. That's why this is in news. Next issue is bilateral netting. Recently, Parliament passed Bilateral Netting of Qualified Financial Contracts Act. This was passed by the Parliament. Bilateral netting means, let's say if A owes 25,000 to B and B owes 1 lakh rupees to A. Earlier, B has to show that it has paid 1 lakh to A. A has to show that it has paid 25,000 to B. So they have to do both the transactions. Now, net means they deduct the amount and B pays only 75,000. This is known as bilateral netting. Under a single obligation, they pay only once. So this particular thing will be very helpful in case of default or insolvency of the parties. So this pays only once. This pays at a time. So instead of complex transactions, this pays once at a time. This offsets the money related to dealings between the two parties. Bilateral netting. This helps in promoting ease of doing business in India. Next issue is KV Kamath Committee. KV Kamath Committee is the chairmanship of former ICICI Bank CEO. During COVID-19 pandemic, how the loan restructuring should be done. For that, RBI has formed a committee known as Kamath Committee. It has selected 26 sectors based on various criteria such as liability to adjusted tangible net worth, debt to EBDIT, current ratio, debt servicing coverage ratio, average debt servicing coverage ratio. Based on various parameters, this committee has identified 26 parameters to which banks can go for loan restructuring. Last year, financial distress was there. That's why this committee was appointed for loan restructuring. Next issue is Vodafone case, which is known as retrospective taxation case. This is again in news now in August 2021. But in 2020 September, this was in news because Permanent Court of Arbitration at Hague, it has ruled that India's retrospective taxation, it violates two things. One, bilateral investment treaty with Netherlands, and it also violates the arbitration rules under United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. What happened? India has imposed capital gains tax and transaction tax on Vodafone and Crane companies. With regard to Vodafone, also with regard to Crane, Permanent Court of Arbitration favored them, and India was asked to pay the interest amount on the tax paid by these companies. Next issue is Plastic Park Scheme. Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, there it has approved setting up 10 plastic parks under Plastic Park Scheme. It is similar to SEZ. It is similar to National Investment and Manufacturing Zones. But this particular one is specifically for plastic industry. These are being set up in Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, and Chhattisgarh. We need not remember these names. But let's understand what is Plastic Park. Plastic Parks is an industrial zone devoted to plastic enterprises and its allied industries. The objective of this is to promote the competitiveness. It promotes the cluster model. So plastic processing industry is promoted, and sustainable use and growth of plastics, recycling of plastic waste management, these are all the objectives of Plastic Park Scheme. Center would fund 50% of the project cost with the ceiling of 40 crore. Remaining would be paid by the states and the industries. Now implementation is through the special purpose vehicle. Next one is Kritagya Hackathon. Kritagya Hackathon means Indian Council of Agricultural Research. It started organizing Kritagya. It's a national level hackathon started in August 2020. It is to promote innovation in the agriculture and allied sectors in the country. Kritagya. So many innovative approaches and technologies will be there. These will be implemented if needed. ICAR also is promoting institutional mechanisms through research institutions, Krishi Vigyan Kendras, agricultural universities to address the issues faced by the farming sector. Kritagya Hackathon is related to National Level Innovation Summit to promote the innovation in the agriculture and allied sectors in the country. Next one is RBI's guard approach. RBI has submitted technology vision for cyber security for urban cooperative banks. Under that, guard approach is proposed, which includes 5 measures. 1. To promote the cyber security. This is essentially to promote the cyber security. 1 is governance oversight on cyber security. Utilize the technology investment. Then appropriate regulation and supervision should be there. Robust collaboration among various regulators. Developing the necessary IT and cyber utility skills, cyber security skill sets are which is combinedly known as the guard approach. Guard approach is for what? Urban cooperative banks. This particular document also seeks to have more oversight on cyber security, secure the IT infrastructure, provide the supervisory mechanism, develop a forum for urban cooperative banks which addresses these challenges, implement the framework on awareness and training on all urban cooperative banks. RBI's broad approach is for cyber security for urban cooperative banks. Next issue is sustainable finance collaboration. Sustainable collaboration means Department of Economic Affairs under Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with United Nations Development Program, they both started addressing this, going for a sustainable finance collaboration, under which they are going to gather the funding which will be useful for sustainable development such as renewable energy. So, under this, they have discussed on reducing the barriers for new innovating financing, role of blended financial instruments, green finance, very important, green finance for sustainable development, environmentally sustainable activities, under that promoting investments. These are the areas that are discussed under Sustainable Finance Collaboration, Department of Economic Affairs and United Nations Development Program. Next issue is eGopala app. eGopala app is a comprehensive breed improvement marketplace and information portal. This app provides digital information on livestock owners. What are the measures that has to be taken? This promotes the fisheries also. There are other initiatives to promote fisheries also. eGopala is for livestock only. This is to promote the livestock sector. This provides information related to productivity, health, diet to the cattle owners. Next one is SARDO ports. SARDO means Society for Affordable Redressal of Disputes Ports. With regard to ports, various ports of India, to redress various disputes, this particular institution was established by Ministry of Shipping. This is established under Societies Registration Act. It is similar to provisions of highway sector. Sardo's roads is constituted under National Highways Authority of India. Similarly, Sardo's ports is established by Ministry of Shipping. This includes Indian Association of Ports, Private Ports and Terminal Association. When there are any disputes, to resolve them quickly with less cost, this particular one is appointed, modeling the road structure. This ports will assist the settlements of disputes through arbitration in the marine sector, including ports and shipping sector. There is a model called landlord port model. The port owner need not maintain the terminals. Terminals can be given on a lease to someone. This model is known as landlord port model. The Sardo's ports, this helps in promoting landlord port model also. Next issue is Ease of Banking Reforms Index. Ease of Banking Reforms Index 2.0 is launched last year by RBI. This was launched first time in 2018 jointly by the government and the public sector banks. This is through Indian Banks Association, and this particular Indian Banks Association is formed in the year 1946 as an association of Indian banks and financial associations. Ease agenda is put under this particular index. Ease considers two things: clean and smart banking. So clean credit, data usaging, accountability, defaulters and action against them, NPA recovery. So these has to be considered. Smart banking, speedy bank system, multi-channel reach, accessibility, responsiveness, technology. Based on clean and smart models, banks are given ranks. Various public sector banks are given ranks under Ease of Banking Reforms Index 2.0. Next is Spice Plus Portal. Spice Portal is launched by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Spice Portal is an electronic web platform which will have very less procedures for the business to enroll in this particular portal. So already we are improving in ease of doing business. We want to further improve in incorporating the business. That's why Spice Portal has been launched. This reduces the time and cost of launching a business, and it integrates 10 procedures in single web platform, and this facilitates on-screen filing and real-time data validation of incorporation of companies. Spice means user-friendly database. It offers 10 services by 3 central government ministries and departments such as Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ministry of Labour, Ministry of Finance. Spice Portal, important, Ministry of Corporate Affairs launched it. This is part 1 of September 2020. We will also upload part 2 of September 2020. By watching these two, you can download the PDF and you can attend the test series. Thank you very much. All the very best. All the best.